I think about recent history. I think about the arguments before the Iraq War that Saddam Hussein was a bad man, that he'd used chemical weapons against the Kurds. The whole world was appalled, and this dreadful man had to be got rid of because if that happened, Iraq would be a better, happier, more stable place. Similar arguments about Gaddafi in Libya, and I'm afraid that we may not like these Arab dictators, but they are secularists, they are not Islamists, and what we've done in the case of both of those recent interventions is to open the door to ISIS. And so, of course, I'm worried that I'm hearing the same arguments over again, and on both sides of the pond, you know, political leaders basically saying we now need to get rid of Assad.
Now, Nigel, on our side of the pond, it's the difference between America first and American leadership and what that balance looks like. There's been bipartisan support for these targeted narrow strikes as a slap against usage of chemical weapons. What's the next step? If you don't believe it's deposing Assad or getting rid of Assad, how does America show leadership in this region?
Well, look, it may well be that given the weakness of President Obama, who issued a threat and then didn't deliver, it may well be that the US government has absolutely incontrovertible proof that it was Assad that used chemical weapons the other day, and that this was a one-off strike and a warning. If that's the case, I don't think Trump supporters and voters will be worried. But if it's the beginning, effectively, of a long military campaign that is aimed at regime change, then I'm sorry, but I think many of the people who supported President Trump would be really, really worried about that.
Yeah, you know, we've heard from President Trump and Rex Tillerson and others on his team that say we've got to get help on this. We need other nations, particularly the UK, to help us stand up to Russia, to figure out how to move forward with Syria. What is the mood like where you are? You're a big part of, you were of the Brexit movement in terms of getting more involved.
Well, I think that the arguments here in Westminster, in London, are very similar to the USA. Most of the establishment here support continued military action, and many in the British government would love a campaign to get rid of Assad. But I think there are those of us, particularly on the Brexit side of the debate, who are really worried about this. And are we not losing sight of something else, which is often in history, it is the case that my enemy's enemy is my friend. However bad a man Assad is, he is actually fighting ISIS every single day. And I believe the biggest threat we face in the West is from Islamic terrorism. And we really must not lose sight of that.
I mean, there's been some criticism. You're absolutely right about this. You heard from Laura Ingraham this week saying missiles flying. Senator Rubio is happy. McCain's ecstatic. Hillary's on board. This is a complete policy change in 42 hours. You heard other members of the Trump train who are big fans of Donald Trump saying this party's over. They're worried that this America First strategy is going to be obliterated.
Yes, I think they are. I think they are. I mean, look, we don't know yet exactly what's going to happen. Clearly, the neocon voices were always going to come to the fore over the course of this weekend. And, you know, clearly the president has got a very, very big decision to make. I was, as I say, just warn that recent history shows if you get rid of secular Arab dictators, what comes afterwards can be even worse.
It will be very interesting when our own Secretary of State and members of the British government are in Moscow on Tuesday talking about next steps. Can Russia take the helm of finding a solution? We'll see. Mr. Farage, I'd love to get your take on, you're obviously a leader of the Brexit movement. You've been a part of something called CalExit here in the United States. Tell us a little bit about
breaking
that.
California into